Oh, just
the DGen life.
It's a beautiful day.
You got a DGen anthem?
Do I have a DGen anthem? Wait. Oh, it's so out of tune.
You like the Dominican Jack Black.
Woo! Let's go. Happy Friday, LinkedIn. What is good in y'all hood? It is sunny out here. If you can't tell, this doesn't happen. So when it is, I get hyped. Okay, I got Spider-Man on the tee.
Got Nacho Kevin over here.
Nacho Kevin. Look, so here's the thing.
It's your new Twitter handle.
I had my shoe game on point, and I was gonna match for you guys. The thing is, I've never worn them, but we're still gonna do shoe reveal. Come on, what's the beginning of our show without a shoe reveal? So these are the Spider-Mans to match with Spider-Man. Haven't worn them yet. I think I will. My son wants them. He said, "Dad, don't wear them. Wait." I was like, dude, by the time you would put these in, you would put your foot in them and then they would turn to dust. So that not a good idea. So, and that's where I'm at today, Clark. What's up with you, man? What's popping? What's good?
I'm good. But how do you decide which shoes you're going to wear or not wear?
Oh, gosh. Now I'm going to have to. Is my wife, babe, if you're watching, can you? Okay,
earmuffs.
Cool.
Earmuffs.
Oh, earmuffs. I have, Clark, I have like 131 pair of shoes. I counted. Oh. So in terms of what do I wear and not, dude, I went through a cycle where I doubled up on shoes. Oh my God, it's so weird. That's how much I love shoes.
Oh, what's up, Nathan?
Dude, I am. That's exactly what Nathan. Do you know the Travis Scotts? They're like $1,900 pair of shoes. When I bought them, they were $200. I got them at retail. And then all of a sudden they skyrocketed. And then people are buying them for $2,000. And now I don't want to wear the shoe. And my wife's like, that's ridiculous. And I'm like, I know. But what if one day I sell it and it's $5,000? I don't want. So it's like that. Like the really valuable ones, I'm like, okay, so this one online goes for like $500. I'm like, what if one day I'm like, we need $500 and you need Spider-Man shoes?
I'm still not super convinced that you have like 8 pairs of shoes, but it's really you have 120 Beanie Babies. It's just a front for your Beanie Baby collection. I had to check. You know, it's like the detective going to the door. Are you here to arrest me? No, just want to ask some questions.
A couple questions.
I just had a couple questions.
Starting with, where were you last night?
Yeah,
no, 100%.
Where was I last night? I think I was just home.
Yeah,
I was just home.
Some days are like that. Some days are like that. That's okay.
We watched the movie Ricky Stenicki on Amazon Prime, and John Cena is absolutely hilarious in it.
Oh, really?
Hilarious.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't know they actually released like decent comedies anymore.
They usually don't. They try not to.
Yeah, the story's kind of whatever. But he is a show stealer, scene stealer. Oh yeah, he's fantastic.
Okay, that's not something I would normally hear from a John Cena. So
that I wasn't quite expecting
him. Just
like
Zac
Efron's in there. Yeah, Zac Efron's in there. He's pretty good in comedies usually. He did a little bit more of the straight man. In this one.
Yeah, he's not bad. I like some of his comedies.
Yeah, it was funny. It was
you know what? Movie. You know what? I just finished Love Is Blind. If y'all
we did too. Did you watch the reunion?
Oh my! Hey, I don't know because I didn't know. I didn't know until 3 days ago when my wife was watching it, and then I was like peering over her shoulder, and she was like, "You like this, don't you?" I was like, "I don't."
Well, that's what happened to me.
Right?
As I would start yelling at the TV. Nope. She's like, "Please get out!" I was like, "I had to get out of the room."
Ken, get off your phone, Ken. Yeah. What are you doing, Ken? Do you not see that lady in front of you? Are you crazy?
Yeah,
Ken. Yeah. Chelsea, Megan Fox, get out of here. Anyway, how dare her?
Megan Fox. I'm Enrique Iglesias. She's Megan Fox.
I'm bad funny, okay? Yeah, whatever.
I mean, what are we doing? Yeah. Oh, if only I lost 8 pounds, I'd be like Enrique. Okay, Clark.
Yeah, I just need to go walk. I just need to go.
Add a 0.
I just need to go for a walk.
Yeah. Add a 0 and some tattoo removal, and then maybe we're making fun. Yeah. It's.
But yes, I did watch the reunion. My wife said that was the best reunion. She's iffy on the best show, but now apparently there's a whole bunch of seasons we need to watch. Apparently there was one in Seattle, so I got to watch that one.
Good.
So,
Seattle.
Yeah, I'm actually. I like the drama. I'm not gonna lie. I like
people are showing up to this and having no clue what's happening.
No clue. No clue.
And these dudes talking about Love Is Blind. Yeah, we are.
100%. And it was good.
We're married men with children, and
we watch Love Is Blind with our wives.
The sports is on my phone though. Like I put the Bruins game on my phone. While that's on there, I'm just like looking to see because it's.
All I'm looking at is crypto charts. So
I don't with the DGen life, man.
That's basically a sport. Let me tell you. But anyway,
it's fun. I'm back. Kevin got me into something, and I think I'm down $50 already. So that's fun. But I'm back in the game. I can't find my secret keys or anything for half my things that I did 3 years ago. So it's been a fun week.
There you go. Daniel watched it too. Man.
Dude, Daniel.
See, look,
Brian. I'm a married man with children. I didn't watch it. You know what, Brian?
Hey,
we get it. You're better than us.
That's true.
You're better than us.
Oh, that's okay. Hey, take it. Run with it.
A lot of people are. It's fine. It's okay.
What are we doing today? What are we talking about? How are we?
No, I'm going to throw up one. We get the little QR code.
Oh yes.
Again, as we always say, if you want to chat, book a call. We've got some cool stuff that came out this week. Case studies, testimonials.
Oh my gosh.
We got stuff with Decent that we're posting. The workbook is nuts.
Oh my man.
We got a lot of stuff going on. But before we dive in,
I know.
We'll cover it. So we got Nathan, we got Bradley, Daniel Allen watching Love Is Blind, Brian Woods, too good for us. I know you're watching Spring Training, Brian. Daniel also married with kids. Well, we got a married men with kids Love Is Blind group that we are starting.
Yeah,
I feel like I go blind if I watch Love Is Blind. No, but you do want to go deaf sometimes.
You do.
Yeah.
No, you do want to go blind too. I'm telling Ken, put down the phone, Ken. Sometimes, it's but that's what happens. It gets in the feelers. It gets you. And you know what? I'm just gonna say this for married men. Here's all I'm gonna say. There'll be times where something will happen on the show, and then we pause it. Me and my wife talk like.
I want to throw. I lived in LA for 8 years. I know this is scripted, but it's still fun.
It's so good.
It's like WWE. Okay. It's still fun, even though it's scripted. Even though like the NFL, right? Same thing. It's still fun.
The drama is for your mama. Okay, guys. Yeah. It is.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
You can tell I got some sleep, can't you, Clark?
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, well rested Kevin is a dangerous thing. It's a dangerous thing. I'm a bad man when I sleep. Yeah, right.
Yes.
That
Cheers.
whole thing. So, and now Kevin's apparently half goat compared to my impression.
Not scripted.
No, it's this really is the funnest part of my week. 100%. I love this. This is really fun. No, we're going to talk about the risk in getting better. It's just a theme that's come up. I talked to a lot of people. It's just really interesting. The people that dive into the program, the people that hold off. I've had people that eventually talk to me. I can't believe I didn't sign up a year ago and all that. And no, we're not going to promote the program the whole day or the whole live. But there's just some real things that Kevin and I have that I've seen. I know, Kevin, you're starting to really see being, director of client experience in the program. And he sometimes wears the glasses on one-on-one calls and group calls, not always. But it's just it's interesting, right? The stories people tell themselves in their head of, can I get better? Can I transform? Can I do this? I see other people. I see testimonials. Is it going to work for me? Just that fear.
Yeah.
Even if they message people that we've worked with, like, it's still like, can I do this? And
I think that's been the most illuminating thing, dude.
Right?
Is realizing that, and it makes sense that everybody is coming to the situation with a story in their heads of what they told themselves, of what they can and can't do. And they've they've trapped themselves into this box, it feels like. And it feels like, oftentimes when they come to us, like their hands are on each side of the box, and they just want to bust out of it. They just don't know how. And they're looking at, we talk about this often, but they're kind of looking almost for permission to say, is this the right way to go? And if I go this way, am I going to fail? Am I going to fall? Is this going to happen or this? And because we are unafraid to fall, and we have failed and scraped our knees and been mucked and muddied, we can kind of give that permission because we're unafraid. We don't hold those fears, and we were kind of able to overcome those, where there might be a step or two behind us, overcoming those fears that we had overcome. So we're able to kind of provide a little more directionality in where you should go with that.
Well, we've talked about it a few different times, but everyone kind of has a little bit of the breaking point.
Yeah.
Or I'll put it this way. For me, the year that I realized a lot of things was 2015. I was 28 years old. I was super close with my grandmother all through my life. We did like everything together. She had pancreatic cancer and was good until she wasn't good 2 years in. And that's kind of the year I was just starting to wake up to the reality around me of like, I feel like I'm just kind of drifting along life. And I was at Aerotech, I was an account manager, and I was like, something is not right. Like, could I actually have a family today? Could I be married? I was like, I'm not ready for any of those things.
Yep.
And I wasn't using it necessarily as an excuse. It was just realizing, well, maybe I was before, but I was like, that's just the reality. I was like, is this how the rest of my life is going to go? Like, I'm going to be like this, and I'm going to be just average at sales and like not really, average at, taking care of myself and all that. Although definitely fallen off the last year or so with kids and all that. No excuse. I got to get better. Kevin knows. I'm working at it. But it was just, I hadn't really taken reins of anything at that point. And I don't know. It was just kind of realizing this isn't like, is this it? Like, this is all I got? And then like she passed, and I was like, is that like the legacy I want? Everything that she poured into me, is that who I'm gonna be? Right? It's just like this all I got. And look, in this day and age, there's a whole other conversation about how we prepare or don't prepare men in their 20s. But it was just like, oh, no one's coming to save me.
Well, let's talk about that right there. And I'd love to ask you a question, in terms of, and it goes back to everybody that comes to us, and that's coming with a story, right? You
shout out Ben, by the way.
Shout out Ben. Yo.
Benjamin Mena, dude.
Go ahead.
Summit, 600 people. I think 153 showed up to my talk, 133 live at one time. People, I've had some great calls with people that watched that at my presentation.
That's
people
impact.
Spoke. I mean, dude, the impact, the value. I got to watch the replays of some of the other conversations.
Me too.
Diane Prince.
Yep.
I got to watch the rest of her talk. Keely, I was there for 90% of that. Will McGee, he gave similar the alumni call, but I want to check that out. And there's some other ones I heard. There's some other good ones that I heard were really good. Brian Fink, who I just had a podcast episode released last week. But Ben put on a heck of an event for free if you showed up live. I think you can still get the replays for like $47 for like 15 hours of speakers. It's like nuts. So it's a great deal. So check that out.
Definitely. Shout out.
That is awesome. The Elite Recruiter podcast. Check that out. I'm sure most of you on here already know about it. He's pretty big. But yeah, Ben, like learning that, like, dude, it's ongoing, right? And the risk of getting better. And process, 2015, right? So go back to that.
Internal versus external, right? Yeah. And like, at that point in your life, it's probably like a money thing, right? You're like, oh, like you're thinking about like these external things that you want to solve. But then that was the moment in time where you realized that you had to look internally, right? Like, is this all? Is this my legacy?
Is nagging feeling, dude. I had people. My dad was always like, "Dude, you have so much potential. Like, I'm excited for you to realize it." And I was 28. I'm like, "When do you realize potential?" I'm like, "There's people already have built Hall of Fame careers by 28 years old. Like, what was I doing?"
But that's also another interesting one too. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Well, and I had to get rid of that, right? And all that. And even now, almost 37, I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm just scratching the surface, right? So even that, I had to like work through some of those things. But you know what the realization was, and none of this stuff happened overnight, right? I didn't leave
Oh,
for
of
the
course
another
not.
2.5 years, and a bunch of other things happened. But I was like, I need to demand more of myself.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing. The excuses weren't enough.
Yep.
There were some people, I think, even in my hometown friend circle, that were never going to demand more of themselves. And so part of that and changing the mindset is realizing like some of that I became distant with some of them. And so I did have to kind of, I don't, I hate the term like leveling up your circle, but I had to find people that had also made the decision I demand more of myself
Yeah.
in this life. And not to say that they're bad people or I have anything against them. I don't, but I needed to be around that.
Yeah.
Number one. And I think that was the first
Huh.
thing in
When you say
okay,
like,
can I get better? It's just
yeah,
like the risk in getting better when people make fun of you or they try to pull you down. And they did. I mean, they were making fun of me behind my back. I was going to be a coach and all this other stuff. I'm like, okay. So that's the first risk, right? Is that you're on an island and you have no one supporting you. And no one's
that's
supporting just the vision and the dream of wanting to get better.
that's a that's a good start. Can I? You know what? If I could, let's move through this. That's a great start.
That the best one, Bradley, I take offense. I take offense. I love you, buddy.
Nah, Brian's dope
Yeah.
too. Shout out Brian Fink.
Yeah, nah, he is like it's crazy how much he
Oh yeah.
knows.
We did a I forget what podcast we did together,
Exactly
but
it.
I was like I was just sitting there just copiously writing notes. Brian.
I was just trying to let him talk the whole time. I was like, just talk more. And I had people
Yeah.
message me like, dude, Brian Fink knows a lot of stuff. I'm like, I know he does. It's kind of
Definitely.
crazy. So,
But in terms of
yeah.
talking about the risks, right? Like there's
But
a
what Ben
risk.
said here, right? One of the best ways to change your environment is to change your environment.
That's right.
That's it.
So when I first started, when I first got to this point, like kind of your demarcation point, it was the risk of not getting better is that you can become the king of remedial jobs. And that's what I became. I became the king of being okay with being the smartest. In fact, I would seek out places where I was the smartest person in the room. And when I'd get in an interview, I would just wow these people, like wow them. Because my knowledge base, like honestly, was probably 3 levels above them. But I soaked that up for some ridiculous reason because I lacked some internal drive.
Yeah, the
And to your
30-year-old king of the playground. It's
100%. I was
like,
28-year-old king of the playground,
Billy
100%.
Madison, right? Yeah, it's a little bit one of those.
But you said something that's profound that works for everybody, and it's what had to happen with me, and it didn't happen until the pandemic, and that's where I got my moment of perspective, and the transformation happened for me, and that was when I lost my job. That was when I lost my energy and enthusiasm for just like figuring things out, and I was just sitting with the pain of not knowing what was next. And I had to sit with that pain deeply, personally. And I had to sit with the pain of all the things that I was missing out on because I wasn't trying anything, because I was afraid to speak what I know, or I was afraid how people would receive anything I would say. I was afraid of how, like, am I really, do I really know this stuff? They know so much more. So, going back to the comparison, but also just again, like, just sitting with the pain long enough to where it's like, okay, now I want to do something. There's so many people we talk to where I feel like there's just that, like they need to have tried 17 different things and wasted tens of thousands of dollars, which I did. Then I was like, okay. And that's where I finally started with like, okay. And so that's what it sounded like, kind of like you. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm just not taking it in and even trying all those things, you're still kind of like it's a step, right? But then there's even an evolution. You start trying things, and I think the mindset that's important when you do try things is: are you just like scrambling? Like, are
Yeah.
you in a get quick rich mindset,
Yeah.
or are you like learning and trying things for the long term?
So
Right. And I
can I
think
ask you,
there's like that's kind of the next step. That for me, that was the evolution. Was I was just like I was learning stuff, but I left and I was like, I gotta make all the money in the next 5 months. I was 31 and was like, well, why?
yeah.
Like I look back, I'm like, I'm so stupid.
So
Like just play the long game.
but
Yeah.
to that point right there, do you feel like when you were at that place, because me personally, like I would always put numbers out there, like 200,000.
Oh, I'm gonna make 20K a month, and then
Right.
40K, 50, and I'm like, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea I was gonna get there. I was like, sounds sweet, right? But it's just
But then can
What does
I
that
ask you
mean?
this?
Yeah.
Thank you. What does that mean?
Mm.
And I think that's where life started changing for me. Because I was like, wait, what does 10K mean though? What does it mean in terms of the effort that I have to put in to make 10K happen every single month? Not just like I'm gonna make 10K this month. How do I make 10K at what like who do I have to become? How good at sales do I have to become? How good at messaging? How good at communicating? Like how what are all the steps it takes to get to 10,000? That's where things started to change. And I know a little bit about your story, so I know a little bit, but I think that's where we started to notice like reverse process it backwards. But you said it. You have to own it internally, and it's like, what do I have to do to own this?
Yeah, it's the Jocko book, Extreme Ownership, which I'm not
Oh, I love it.
claiming that I've read. I know you have, but
57
again, I
times.
know the
Love that book.
principles of it, and I've heard him
Yeah.
talk about it, and I've seen clips, and I saw some clips this week of I saw someone getting bashed because they were lying about what was in the book. People are like, "Did you actually read the book?"
Yeah.
Right? Of like, ownership isn't about bad mouthing your boss or not doing it. It's like,
Nah.
no, you actually become like an amazing employee and how to amplify leadership and make them look good and all that. Like that, there was just so much value in the integrity and the honesty and owning whatever, whether you're picking up
Well,
the trash, whether you're working in fast food or you're a recruiter or whatever else, just owning wherever you're at.
and I mean, Jocko was the commander in the military, owning people's lives. Like
Yeah.
the basis of the book is extreme ownership over people's lives. So just imagine that, and then think about where you're at. Right? He's in Iraq, taking ownership of putting people in harm's way, and then making sure they go back so they can say hello to their moms and dads.
I bet you it is a pretty good audiobook listen because
It
he's
is,
just
and yo,
like,
I have
yeah, I
goosebumps
probably
talking
got to
about
do
it.
that too. Yeah.
I have goosebumps. No,
Yeah, that'd be
it's
a
on.
good one. That'd be fun if he's the one reading it. Yeah.
Oh, it's him, and I forget the other gentleman at this moment that wrote it with him. But it's them. It is them narrating it, and it is. It's. I mean, I have goosebumps thinking about it because he does. He puts you in that place where he's talking about that he's taking extreme ownership for men that he is men and women that he is sending outwards to harm's way, and then how all the ways he has to think about them and it being nothing about him, and that's the same facilitation. That's the same process differently that we've had to go through where you're talking about you at the even as an employee. There's this book by Seth Godin. Oh god, I can't think of the damn book now, but he talks about being like the most amazing employee, and it's just taking ownership over everything and understanding it all starts and stops with you, even if it's not your fault, right? If you have the mindset of taking ownership, then you will always be looking for the solutions. You'll always be looking to solve the problems. And
Yes. In short, yes. To
we
add my
haven't.
my little spin on that would be, I also realized like how much have people invested in me, and I was also kind of just drifting
Ooh.
a little bit and not taking advantage of um especially with my situation, right? With that, what happened with my parents passed, and I was taken in, not and it was easy for people to throw a pity party at me, which I wanted nothing to do with. But I also had to think of like everything that people had done in my life just to protect me in a situation when that happened, and like I owe it to. I mean, you owe it to yourself, but you owe it to them and the people that were there for you to maximize it
Yeah.
and to maximize the potential. And I just felt that too. Uh, and it's just like you got to do it. And also, what else are we doing? This like
That's good.
why else are we here?
That's a
Right?
good.
It's that to go full throttle, to always be improving, and just to think and like just to think differently and not just go with whatever I was told, but just to start as I don't know if it's visceral feeling as like a man, but I'm just like what are my own boundaries? What is my own vision? Like what do I want to do and how do I want to attack this? And not to just be a man thing, it's just my experience.
It's a human,
But
not a human being thing.
but it's a human thing, and it's just like I gotta like take the bull by the horn a little bit, and just making that decision first, and then going from there. And I think what it did when I did that, then I got the get rich quick scheme, and then I got out of that. And
Yeah.
what happened is the get quick rich mindset got me into some bad traps.
Yeah.
right? Put money in places I really shouldn't have, and all that
Ooh.
stuff. But it also, I did learn some things, but I was able to learn like what were good investments and what
Yep.
were bad. Outsourcing the help, not great, right? Oh, here's money. You figured out how to make me more money versus I put stuff in the mastermind like traffic and funnels and all this other, different programs
Yep.
where I was supposed to get better. Night and day difference. I
Yeah.
still am implementing lessons that I learned 6 years ago from that stuff. And I still have a great network of people that I met in that just from being in the right community. And so that was kind of like, but I learned that by trial and error,
Yep.
right? And it's a six-figure lesson, but like still you have to, you kind of have to earn your way. You have to learn through it. And I think I wish I had a little bit more humility at the time, but
Yeah.
I had to learn it after.
Well, you know what you're talking about, and what everybody, again, the story you tell yourself, it's called baggage. We're all coming to shit with baggage, right? Like, no joke. We don't talk about this because people like to do surface level, but we're not surface level people. We go much deeper.
I don't know what else to do.
I don't either, because we know that most people's problems are internal problems. They're not actually external problems. You're actually not trying to solve the money issue. There's bigger issues. And Clark, you're talking about you lost your family as a kid, and kind of what that meant for your life. Well, that plays itself out from now until your 36-year-old self, right? There's a lot of baggage that comes with the fears that we have to alleviate from ourselves. And
Well,
and
it's a reframe. Just to interrupt, it's
100%.
I lost my parents, but I also gained more family from that as well, right? And so you look at where things are, and if things that aren't great happen, you can reframe. When it was a story I told myself, it's like, all right, well, I didn't do. I mean, that wasn't my fault. It just happened. But I still have people that stepped in and showed me a lot of love, right? So I was loved by my parents, new family. Like there is that, like, but some people tell the story the opposite way, right? Well, woe is me. I'm far from perfect. I made a crap ton of mistakes, but I never really thought about it that way. I was just like, all right, well, it kind of happened, right
Lessons.
now, and it's just, it is like for me, I felt like it was God given. I don't know what I did to deserve that mindset, but I'm just gonna run with it. But like, it's a huge, like, you have more control, and that got me through, I think, childhood. But as an adult, you have to, as you said, let go of that. I had to kind of let go of what that piece was. I'm like, okay, well, what is it as an adult? How do I take advantage of the skills, the opportunities, and this chance, right, that I've been given? And that does require like a that mindset has to grow and has to evolve.
Well, and all
Yeah.
this is past trauma, right? How many, and I'm not even talking about childhood. I
Yeah.
mean, you were rejected 97 times last year, and that hurts this year. You you know you know and again, I'm talking baggage from call to call. I'm talking baggage from message to message. I'm talking baggage from interaction to interaction. We've got to.
But it starts there, right? Like it starts at that stuff and then delves into the business piece,
That's
which
right.
you're talking
Well,
about.
yeah. So right. So that baggage is that life baggage. And again, I'll give you an example, and I can now talk about this. I lost my baby brother 2 years ago. That completely wiped my mindset out, my confidence, and my ability to do much of anything when it came to executing any plan whatsoever. I had to go through a whole process of getting through the pain, understanding what that pain was, and then being able to redirect it in a positive way. Now, I'm talking about some real stuff where somebody lost their life and it was my baby brother for sure. But that's not much different than most other people's situations in terms of just the pain that we all deal with that manifests itself in many ways. That's the internal pain that we're actually solving. It's just we think it's this external stuff that's on the surface that it's not. And then we fail to actually cue in on those things that actually drive us. And then we get in these meetings and we say things that we know aren't right and they don't feel right. And that's the hard work we haven't done. That's the ownership we haven't taken in. That's the stuff that we got to solve. So that's when I talk about permission for people. This is the stuff that I think me and Clark are really good at recognizing, because we do have a lot of trauma. We talk about it often, and we understand that that's the stuff that you bring to the surface. That's what solves the problems in your head so that you can unclutter what's happening. You can sincerely realize your own greatness and what you do well, and then you can facilitate that into wins.
What is it about when you go through a loss like that, right, of your baby brother? And because I've talked to you about it, it's interesting how loss can inspire us to break through. And now I'm not saying that you have to have a loss to take yourself to the next level. You don't.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. We've talked about, and I've heard you say it, of just like it kind of was just like you don't care anymore. I know you mentioned that, but then there's like a well, this is as terrible as it gets. What else can you do to me?
That's a good segue. That's a great segue. Me and Clark have had a lot of conversations about this, and oftentimes I will say, so I've transformed my thinking on this, because when it first happened and it's fresh, it becomes this legacy thing, right? I have 2 kids, I have my wife, and I'm like, okay, there's no way I'm gonna let this tragedy just be a tragedy. I've got to do something with this. I've got to make this happen and this happen. I got to do this. I got to do this. And 8 months down the road, what I was realizing was I was doing all these things for this person that, he's not here. And so I was living for like somebody else. So it was like stepping and taking that back to like getting back to me. What do I want? What am I good at? How can I show up for these people? How can I solve their problems? Like, seriously, how can I solve their problems, right? I can't be everything for everybody, because if I am, then I am nothing for nobody. So the experience of loss, what it taught me is, and big loss like that. And again, we all have different loss in different ways. So it's just the reframing is that doesn't have to be my story.
No,
that doesn't have to be my story. I don't have to be somebody that lost his brother, but I can be somebody that gained perspective. And that is what my loss of my brother gave me. It gave me perspective I would have never, ever, ever found without it. And I mean that with all my heart. Yeah. With my relationship with my kids, with relationship with my wife, with relationship with my partners, relationship with Clark, relationship with my clients. I now have reframed and understand that sincerely, I am not the hero of my story. I'm a guide. And that is how I am going to be best at helping myself.
Yeah, because that's how you honor. Right?
That is how you honor.
That's how you honor him, and it's how you honor also the skills and the gifts that you've been given. Because it's almost like, how selfish am I going to be that I'm not gonna bring it back to business, which might sound
no,
which may or may not be appropriate.
This is what we're talking about.
But again, it goes back to how does it help me as a recruiter, Clark and Kevin? It's just when you realize it's bigger than you and you're just a pawn in all this, right? And I'm very secure. And again, faith is different for everyone. Again, I'm good with that. Actually, and once I realized that, it helped me let go of so much. Seriously, there's
that's it, right?
I was just like, oh, okay, so what can I control, right? And it's not all, but this thing is way bigger than me.
Yes.
People quote unquote, rejecting or saying no or making comments or whatever. That's good. That's on them, but it can't get me away from my mission and kind of what I feel like I'm here to do and to serve. And I gotta have 100 outreaches to maybe have that one call, or 1,000 to have 20 calls. That's okay, because I'm going for the gold. Right? Nothing's gonna stop me from that.
In terms of the toy, and let's bring back to business. I mean, and this is all business, guys, because think about it. How many people, Clark, do we talk to that are scared to say the next thing to somebody? Because
so many,
right?
But that's where this comes from. Simple message, that question. Right. I was working with a client yesterday that she continued for 6 months after the initial 13-week program, and we're just sales focused. Like we have, target account sales. What are we saying? And she was, I tried this. I got a sales navigator, and I sent this message. And I'm like, I love the effort. But then what did she do immediately? She went back to pitching, and then I was like, well, here's why you don't necessarily need to do that. And we went through it, and sure enough, she had a VP accept a connection request 12 hours after she sent it the night before. It was a perfect example live. And so the VP had one post her whole time on LinkedIn. It was about joining this company 5 months ago, right? So I was like, what do we got to say, right? VP corporate. She's probably not a direct hire manager for what she would be looking at, but it's a big connection. We now know she's active on LinkedIn. The one post she has about the excitement about joining this company she had. So she was like, well, I could say
Real
this,
quick.
I could say that.
And
Yeah.
real quick, and I want everybody, like, the transformation that Clark is, it's like, it's not what would I say. It's you're thinking about your audience and what would they want. You're evaluating them. So it's not about you. You are not
So
the hero.
think about the baggage. Think about
Yes.
letting it go, processing it, being able to let go of stuff. I don't have to pitch myself because your profile is already your connection message and all
Yes.
that. So we were working through that because she was like, I could tell she was fighting. And I'm like, what do you really, what's all you got to say? And we're just like, hey, so and so, great, great to connect, or thanks for accepting the connection. How's the first few months at so and so X, Y, and Z place going? That's it. Because once you've worked through where they're at, their title, what their day to day is, once you look at the profile, what they're excited about,
Yep.
I was like,
But
it's not about you, it's about them. What can we infer that they're excited about?
You know
And
what
you
she didn't
can't
say?
do that. Yeah.
She didn't say they were number one. She didn't say they were the best. They were the fastest. They were going to get her. They were going to do this amazing
We
thing.
can help you with the roles. I see you have openings. How can I help you?
Didn't make any
All that
promises.
stuff.
No, just curiosity.
Yeah.
That's it.
That is, and to tie back to that point, I probably should have led with this story going into that example. But
No, this is, I mean, we didn't plan this, so this is good.
But where I learned this outside of business, it was from my grandmother. And when I spoke at a funeral, I told people, I mean, we were car rides, Vermont, New England, Florida. I mean, we went to Disney World when she had a broken hip because we already had the vacation booked. And I mean, I was wheeling around, we were cutting the lines. I took her on Space Mountain. She never forgave me. I was screaming the whole time. It was great. But I mean, we spent thousands of hours together growing up, and it was just, that was my healing, right? That was my therapy. From what happened, it was just those conversations. She was always hearing me out and kind of pumping me up and like, oh, you're so talented, and all they doing what good grandmothers do, great grandmothers do. And I realized, like, just that bond. Everyone knew how close we were, but I said at her funeral, I was like, look, she's no longer here, but my promise to her and the way I'm going to honor our relationship is I'm going to take what I learned in terms of how she always listened to me, how we talked to each other, we heard it out, and like just how valuable that was for my development. I was like, and I might not get that with everyone, the level I got it with her, but if I take that approach that she took with me, with the world, where could that get me? Right. And like that was, as you can see, that ties in pretty well to recruiting, into sales. That's when it clicked. I came back, I took a few months. In 2016, beginning 2016, I came up with a plan and a goals, top 5 skill sets, the top 20 accounts. I took it seriously, and I 4x my I 4x my all-time high at that stage from the next year. Because I was at 4 and went to 16K in spread. So I hit my all-time high about 8 months later, and it came from just, again, taking the ownership, realizing that I don't have to be a robot anymore, just be the way I was with my grandmother. And like across the board now, there's obviously on a sliding scale and what you share and everything else, right? Being appropriate and the right timing. But it was just like, that's when it clicked. Like, that's all I have to be. There's only so many people I'm going to have the bond at the strength I had with my grandmother. But that approach, I can be all the time. And like that was the difference maker. And what did she do? She just what's going on today? What's going on in your world? What are you excited about? It was always about me. Always about me. To the point where I was like 28, I'm like, man, there's so much I wish I asked about my grandmother back in the day, right? And I was like, she was so good at that. My adopted dad was the same way.
Yeah.
What's going on in your world? What's new? What are you excited about? What are you watching? All that stuff. I'm like, oh, that's what they did. That's why I felt so connected, because they were just asking about me all the time.
Dude, sales and marketing is just
the sales. I mean, he gave me all the books. He gave me the Joe Girard books and like all that stuff, right? The handwritten notes and all that good stuff. And so it was just like, oh, that was it. I learned it growing up. I was like almost like trained to be a recruiter and in sales like the whole time. I just never connected the pieces together. And that's where I see people in the program. Typically, everyone has their own story. And the client I was talking to yesterday is one of the nicest people I've ever met. So she's such a good person and works hard. I just had to change the script of like, this message isn't you, but this is. this actually is congruent with who you are just day to day. And she's like, oh, and it's okay for me to say that. I'm like, that's all you should be saying, because just trust yourself to do the right thing in the journey of the conversation.
Man, social media has so warped everybody from believing that the words, and like, sincerely, I'll guarantee, like, just out of her own way, that's probably the message that she would have sent. Like, if she was just like another human being to human being, it's just for some reason, the moment we get locked in like this business side, we start to wonder, like, what would this person say? What would social media say? What? And it's like, no. You have all the knowledge and experience, aka the wisdom, to know exactly what you need to say. It's just the problem is you're the hero of the story. You have to remove yourself as the hero. I swear to God. I swear this is where the change for me. This is the transformation. The moment I realized that I'm Geppetto, I'm not Pinocchio. The moment I realized that I am the guide, I am the person that has this skill set, recruiters, right, for hiring managers that they need. Why? Because they don't have the time. And you know what that time is doing? It's causing them to not get home on time. Now they're using that time for extra work because a role's not filled, right? So we're solving a different kind of pain. And the moment that I realized that I am just a pain solver and my only job is to find out what your pain is, find out if I can alleviate it. And if I cannot, then I need to direct you to the place where you can. I just think of it like a triage. I don't know anybody's ever gone to the hospital, ever gone to an urgent care. You know, when you go in, you meet with the nurse, they ask you all these questions because they want to figure out where you're at the moment. It's the same thing with your clients. The same thing with hiring managers. You're triaging, right, to get their pain because you want to what? Treat, diagnose, and solve it. That's all we're doing.
And it's the same thing if you're trying to learn or get better, right? Not to do your job, but if you sign up for any program or mentor, or have a mentor that doesn't charge you anything, or YouTube, like, just being in a place that you can figure out what those questions are to ask, that you can get the live feedback, right? That's where the programs, the community, meeting people that were like-minded, that were caring about solving and figuring out the same things that I was caring about figuring out, or that they had already had, and I could learn from them.
Yep.
Once you find that, just to hold on to them, right? And to let them know that you appreciate their help, and you honor that by putting in the work and trying and implementing. Like, that's where I love when we work with, like, when they go out and implement, and then I catch up with them on the next call, and they're like, I tried this. So I'm like, great. Now we have something to kind of to progress the conversation versus like, oh, I got stuck here. And I posted about this morning, like, if you do get stuck or you get busy, like, we got you. Like, I'm gonna have Kevin on you, I'm gonna have Christina on you, I'll be on you. Like, we got you. We're not gonna let you go. Like, you literally have to run away from us for that to happen. But find yourself an environment like that. And, if it's with us, great. I would love that.
Yeah.
If it's not, that's okay too. But to try to do it yourself, all that, which traps I still fall into. But again, I have people around me that can hold me accountable to that. But man, it's so different. And what you say about being the hero and the guide, like, yeah, knowing where you're the guide, right? My dad, my grandmother, they were my guides, right? And they treated me as the hero. And I learned so much from that until it was time for me to realize, like, oh, I'm 28, 31, 36. Like, oh, I'm the guide now. I'm not the hero anymore. And I think that's a big part of realizing your potential. And that's how you mitigate the risk of, like, well, what, of getting better. What if I fail? What if I get rejected? What if I'm not good enough? What if I get scammed? Well, here's the thing. Go ahead.
Well, what is the risk for everybody at home that's sitting here, that's thinking about, that knows there's something missing? What is the risk of not addressing it? What's the risk of, so you said something interesting too, and I just want to, because we do this too. Like, I just want to keep it real, right? Like, there are times where we don't necessarily seek out help immediately, but what do? We talk to each other, we talk it out, we figure it out, and we try our best to get to a place to where we understand the situation so that we can get there. Like, what's the risk of not even talking, of figuring it out? Because we talk to so many people that, like, they're just they're not even at the beginning of this. They're at wit's end with this, but they haven't talked it out, try to figure it out. They don't know what to do. Like, what is the risk of not doing anything?
Not finding out what you could have been.
And how quickly can you find out?
Well, it's an interesting thing, and if people are still tuned in, which I think they are,
Yeah.
Put in emoji form, describe what you're thinking or feeling when you kind of hear us talk about this stuff, because I know it can be a little bit different than what you're probably used to hearing in recruiting circles and coaching circles. But throw in the chat the emoji that best describes, I say, this.
It could be a
topic,
broken
this
heart.
conversation.
It could be a broken
It could be
heart.
anything.
Okay.
Yeah. It could be anything.
Money sign?
I'd be curious how people respond to that. Ben, if you're still in here, I love that you did that last week on the summit. People describing things by emoji. But like, that is, I said it before, when I fixed, the LinkedIn company I was working at, agency I was working at before, we help people book appointments on LinkedIn. When that owner fixed my profile, like I showed him, like I told him like what I had done, recruiting, what I knew. He fixed my profile, got my campaign running, and I started getting responses the same day, and people wanting to chat based on, I saw you worked at Aerotech, or I saw you guys have done this. I was like, me? I'm that person? Like, my identity shifted overnight. And so much of the baggage I had from leaving Aerotech, and I learned a lot there and all that, but there's a lot of baggage from there too. I was like, I'm different to people, or I didn't realize that what I had done looks a certain way, in a really positive way, to the market. And I wasn't stuck with the same old relying on referrals and just this ecosystem, just praying someone recommends me to within my network. I was connecting with people in the UK, United States, that were like, I love your background. I want to learn more. How could you help me? And I'm like, wait, really? And it was overnight. And this was before content. And it was overnight. And it was incredible. I was getting conversations and I was hearing problems. I learned so much, and I'm starting to bring on clients and people that I didn't bring on because I was just trying to figure it out. But it was a completely new identity. And man, if I never put myself out there, right? If I didn't take that risk of like, this could be the thing. And I was like, I think automation is like a gold mine for recruiters. Like, I think I got to do this, but I was kind of stuck on my profile, and like everything else could just be me. What's the messaging? And he just helped me hammer it out. And I was like, whoa, like that changed my life. And that's why we're here today. Like, seriously. And if I had never done it, I'd probably still be a BDR, I guess. I don't know what I would be doing.
Well, I definitely think, there's got to be a lot of like, you understand that you've put in enough of the work in to take that risk, right? And I'll bet you felt comfortable and confident because of the work that you had put in before, with your knowledge and experience, that you may fall, you may scrape, but you're not gonna, like, this is not the last time you're gonna try something. Like, this isn't it. Like, you're not gonna, this is not the deathbed. Like, you can get up again. And I just, for a lot of people that we talk to, a lot of the conversation gets back to like relying on those signals and the feedback that you've gotten in the past, because that's what you're going to use. Because, like, for instance, like, we'll talk about it right now. We're still figuring things out with the funnel and everything we're doing. And there's a wall in the way sometimes, right? Where I will have completed something for Clark, like written something out, and then he'll see it and it's like, oh, duh, because he has all these other pieces of the puzzle that he's already done. And then it just all comes together. So it's like, for a lot of people out there, this is like this little signal that you're missing that will put everything together. And I just see it so many times with a lot of the stuff that we do. And even, like I said, with the way that we work, where there's just this wall in your way, that if you could just have a peek at the other side of it, everything would come together for you.
Yeah. It's a great point about, when you have a lot of the pieces and this just kind of clicks. And that's what happened. I had 7 years in recruiting and hiring and consulting by the time I learned about automation, right? And so many times I deal with people that have maybe 7 years of experience in the industry, and they're like, oh, I don't know. Like I'm just gonna stick to do it my way. I'm like, okay, like, that's fine. But this opened up a whole new
Right.
world. It opened up way more revenue opportunities. It opened up a way to conduct business in a way that I could have enough volume, but still run everything, prioritizing my clients, fulfillment, ethically. Like I wasn't spamming anyone. And I love that piece of it too, right? I was just kind of giving an opportunity in a sense. And I'm like, oh man, this like lines up so well. And I've always said, like, man, if I had this at Aerotech, it would have been a game changer, right? I'm glad that things worked out the way they had. But it's just about like those missing pieces. And then you add content to it, and it's just even more of a game changer. And I don't think people really believe, or like they really hear me when I say, like, I started this business. First week I had a first group call, I had COVID. So that was interesting. Then I got engaged 2 months later, married 6 months after that, bought a house 2 months later, got pregnant, all within the first 2.5 years of having this business and now also building the agency. And yeah, I got pregnant. No, my wife did, obviously. And it was because of automation and content.
Yeah.
Right. And knowing how to leverage it on LinkedIn and knowing how to leverage all the other
leverage.
pieces. I don't have to spend any time prospecting or doing anything because the content strategy that we have works. The Dripify strategy we have works, and that takes care of the top of funnel and creating that momentum. So where someone spends 30 hours in a week doing that, I spend 1, 2, right, total, and it allows me to do this 2 hours a week total, and do the podcast and help run 2 group calls and do one-on-one calls, and like I don't I don't necessarily work any more than a lot of people that are even listening to this, but we figure out the system to be more effective and to work smarter and harder. Right. And again, it all took with facing the failure, facing the rejection. What if we're not good enough? It's just like at some point, who cares?
Yeah.
Like this ain't high school anymore. Like we just gotta go. And then the last one I had is like, what if I get scammed? You know what? I,
Dude,
you got to vet, yeah, you got to figure it out, but it could happen. It's happened to me.
Actually, you know what? That's fun. You know what? I would be remiss if I didn't say all my time spent in the cryptocurrency environment since 2017. My risk tolerance is I've been drained. I've been drained of 7,300. I think it was $47 is what it was. I mean, like literally all right. You matter of fact, you were there.
I remember, yeah.
There was a button. I pressed one button, clicked like all normal. $7,000 gone in a second. Nothing you can do. What I could absolutely have sat there and cried myself to sleep. $7,000. That's a lot of money. I was going to turn that into a lot more money. But in an instant.
But you would have. Because guess what just happened, right? It would have gone up, right?
In an instant, though. I mean, right? Like you sit with the pain, and I did. I went on the floor. I did my little 2 minutes, and it was. And then my wife's like, "Okay, you've got to stop." And I was like, "You're right." And it's money, and it can be made again, and it's a vehicle, and that's all it is. And so it's like it was getting back to the perspective of what had just actually happened.
Well, because you knew that, because everything you learned in the 2 to 3 years prior, you knew.
That's right.
Like that doesn't go away. You upped your skills.
Like that's not my heart. That's not my soul. Like that says nothing about me. It says nothing about me. It's just a situation that happened that I'm going to learn from, which I did, and then keep it moving.
Because you learned everything that you learned and all that research and investment and seeing it, all that, like that doesn't go away. No. Right. So as long as you invest in something where your skills are going to get better. I was telling a call earlier, because she's, they're nervous, as a lot of people are. But I'm like, at the end of this, you're going to have a system that's going to make hundreds of new connections every month. You're going to have a profile that actually speaks to the niche and vertical you want to go after. Mm-hmm. You're going to have 20 to 30 posts that speak directly to the hiring managers in your niche. And I showed her, our workbook and everything else, the core, all that stuff. Like you're going to be way different as an agency in 3 months than you are now. I can guarantee that if you show up and put in the work. And we're asking for, it takes about 5 hours to figure out how to get the boat in the water. And then after that, it's just iteration and just staying with it. Right. And so that's it. And then you can reduce your prospecting time, all that, while increasing your impressions by thousands and connections by thousands. And with the right market, whether you realize the revenue in 4 weeks, 4 months, 8 months, 12 months, your agency is not going to be different. It's going to be different in 3 months than it is today. Right. And you're going to be out there and have a presence. And the revenue follows. It's a lead lag indicator. We all know how this works. Right. That's why we have the testimonials. Like, I made it back in a month. I made it back in 4 months or 3 months. Right. It's like, can't predict that timing, but you put in the work, you do, it's going to happen.
Man, it's until you actually feel it, until you see it, until you just see how it all works. And there's so many pieces, and we talk about it, and it changes as I'm trying to swap this, which is the flywheel. You know, I had this conversation yesterday with a recruiter. We were talking about like where the problem areas are for them in the process. And there's so many details, so many intricacies in this that we have figured out and covered through our time just utilizing LinkedIn as a resource, content, and being a recruiter. And one of the things was, doing content, has automation going, has a presence, profile was good. And then I asked him, hey, what's your network like? And he was like, I'm sorry, what? And I was like, yeah, like, who do you accept into your network? And he was like, oh, that's an interesting question. I was like, that's an interesting question? Because he accepts everybody. He just pressed the accept button, right? So the reason why his content might not be working for his audience is because his audience isn't work for his content, because he's accepting everybody. He's not dialed in, right? So like in terms of that 5 hours, you know, the initial 5 hours with us, it's us dialing in all the pieces that you might not know are something that you should know. And then from there, that's where things become so easy, because your profile is your message. It does speak directly to exactly who you want it to. And exactly who you want it to is you having the right network of people seeing it. And then the flywheel of automation happens. And then, as Clark said, you know, we've gotten so good at it that we now have. Do y'all remember in 5th grade? Remember in 5th grade in Miss Sanchez's class when she had you doing social studies and math, and you're like how do I know what's next? And she gave you this thing called a workbook, right? And it had 20 pages where it just went back to back to back, and you had homework assignments, and you couldn't go to the next thing until you finished this thing. That's what we have, because you need direction. You need to know what's the impactful stuff that I should be doing first. What's the most impactful things I should be learning first? How can I get my revenue going? How can we, right? We work with you where you're at. Hell, maybe what you need is not sales. Maybe what you need is content. Okay, let's talk content. Hell, maybe what you need is sales and not content, because you got content down. Okay, then we're not going to worry about content. Let's talk sales. That's the beauty of kind of the plug and play system that we created, is it works with you wherever you're at. We meet you where you're at. That's the whole point of what we're talking about, the hero and the guide. We're simply here to guide people in the right direction. It's just we meet so many people that need just a little something. That's the 5 hours we're talking about. That's that little something.
I don't know why some of this got blocked out, but I got this text this morning from someone in the program. Client he's just signed from an inbound lead, just like so happy with him, way better candidates than other recruiters have sent, wants to give him more referrals. He's going to make a couple hires with him immediately. He's like, legit never heard of him before he hit my inbox, right? What a profile posting, because you don't know the opportunities you're creating for yourself until you start putting yourself out there in the right way, in the right process. You don't know what's out. I have literally 13,000 more connections than I did when I first started this. And I have some really good friends. I have a business partner. It changed my life. It changed my wife's life, and everything from just putting myself out there the right way, in the way to put my best foot forward.
I'm just curious out there, y'all. How many people out there, how many people are communicating directly with the people you need to communicate with? Like, seriously, right? Like, how many people have done the work on, you know, looking on LinkedIn and who you should be targeting, who you should be talking to, like specifically, right? Who are the 25 people a day I should be connecting with? And then think about that, right? Okay, so you connect with 25 people a day. Now that's 25 people that have a potential to buy whatever it is that you're selling. Okay. Now imagine you create content that speaks to their pain points and the things that they'd be interested in.
Yeah, well, what's gonna make what could if you pop up on their feed, what's gonna make them want to message you?
Maybe an optimized profile. When they go to your profile, your landing page,
What do they see?
what do they see? And then you got to send the message, right? So you got to look at them. You got to see what they're doing. And then you got to think, again, I'm not the hero. I'm just the guide. How can I be curious about this person?
How can I
Because
get them to open up?
people just want to be seen and heard. Like seriously, all of us. Think of any time you've been in a corporate environment, anytime you work with other people around you. You had a boss. Didn't you want your boss to just notice you, right? That's what we do. The 4 steps. We want people to notice you. We want people to pay attention to you. We want people to trust you. And then we convert that trust into money. And that's what we do.
If you stayed this long, because we're 3:02, we got to wrap it up.
Oh, snap.
The way to the risk in getting better, reframe it. Do everything you can. You know, a lot of people maybe, oh, I want to break 10 new accounts in 2024. What do you have to do? Be willing to do everything you got to do to get 10 great new hiring managers this year. If you reframe it that way, you're going to need a lot of outreaches, a lot of impressions, a lot of posts, but they are out there. And don't believe that they're not. Don't believe all the doom and gloom. Doom and gloom is for people that are willing to accept doom and gloom. And yeah, things are not always pretty out in this world, but they never have been. There's always been just, destruction and chaos.
I have goosebumps because no, go ahead, please. I want to tell you something. Go ahead, please. Sorry.
And just be willing to do whatever it takes to get those 10 great hiring managers that have a consultative approach. They know exactly how you can help, and vice versa. You're confident, you have boundaries. They're not giving you the runaround with recs and start dates and ghosting and feedback and lack of thereof. That's what you got to be willing to do. I think if you have that mission and nothing else is going to stop you from getting there, that's all you need to start with. Go ahead.
I'm trying to find this this tweet from a gentleman. Boom. It's the investing advice that changed my life. I swear to God, it's one sentence that should change your life. When it comes to investing, I used to always lose. And here's why. Because I put too much money in my losers. I once asked Mark Yusko what separates the top 3 investors in the world from the top 1% of investors. And here's his answers. It's the most profound thing I've ever heard in my life, I swear to God. Personally, they cut their losers faster than anyone and press their winners harder than anyone. They cut their losers faster than anyone, right? And why? Because they take your energy. They take your excitement. They take your curiosity, your creativity. Because you're just sitting there looking at your money lost and you're just, why not just redirect that one to your winner and get 2% up, 3% up so you're not feeling like this? Stop listening to the BS from that hiring manager is giving you, right? Stop taking on these roles that you're never going to fill, right?
Even if it's your only client.
Even if it's your only client, because that's
right now they're just a client.
No. That's stress that you can put in a good way towards good stress, trying to find that 10 greatest clients, the best clients that will care.
Got punched.
I hope it was. Thanks for staying, Brad. Yo, Bradley's good.
He's a homie.
Need to get
that's a great way to end it.
That is a great way to end it.
Get rid of tools that aren't serving you, clients that aren't serving you, maybe team members that aren't serving you.
Yeah.
And redirect your stuff that you can win. I mean, there's people out there winning, and they're winning without being stressed out of their mind. They're figuring out how to do it the right way, and they're getting their time back, and they're getting some great clients to work with. And the tone of the conversations is different. It's very doable. I didn't know it was doable 9 years ago, and it's a journey. And this is 11 years, really even more than that, of blood, sweat, and tears to hopefully help people figure it out within 3 months.
And honestly, the biggest risk, I think, is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. It is not going to happen, y'all.
It arguably could potentially be arguably worse than doing nothing.
That's actually a good point. Because maybe you get the wrong signals. It's a good point. Good way.
It was a good way to end it.
Good way to end
Good
it.
stuff. This was fun. Hopefully it was helpful. In the chat, how we feeling? What were we up to this weekend? How you guys feeling about your week? Maybe describe it in one emoji. How did you guys do this week? How did you feel about the week?
Or if you want to chat, if you have a question, if there's anything we said that was like, oh, that was interesting. I mean, again, I know what we're talking, but we'd love to chat with you. We love to talk, conversate, whatever. DM us.
Oh yeah, I got people that re-enlist all the time, Bradley.
Did it? We just signed up a whole bunch of new people, or a whole bunch of people re-enlisted. That's right.
Yeah. Been a year later, 2 years later at times. Coaching is seasons, right? Can arm you for a few weeks, few months, get you up and running. Go test it out in the market, make it happen. All right, I'm ready to kind of level up or have a refresh and then come back. Happens all the time.
Oh.
I do it with my coaches.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I literally, I spent some money on a coach again. So always, because you're always leveling up, right? You're always there is never a mountaintop that isn't another mountaintop, and then you need to level up.
Right, a coach is really doing it right, kind of helping you take everything that you already done and filtering it. Okay, how do you leverage it and implement it and kind of build?
Exactly.
So, good stuff.
Good stuff.
Cool. Appreciate
you. A
you.
little deeper than normal. I know, guys. I know the lurkers are here. Appreciate you.
All good stuff.
Please do, Bradley.
Yeah, reach
Brian,
out.
Ben, appreciate you. I know there was earlier. There was Daniel. Appreciate you. Shout out, Love is Blind.
Nathan, yeah, that's Love is Blind.
Talk
I know
about
we did this. Yeah,
talk about baggage, Clay. Sheesh. Don't be Clay, y'all. Don't be Clay.
He's so well spoken too.
He is. I know. He did such a good job in the reunion. I just want to say, like,
yeah, he did. Right. He did. It's that SEC. They teach him how to talk to press. That's what they did. Yeah. Yeah, the athlete. Yeah, exactly. It was a good game. It was a good half. All that good stuff. All right, man. Hey, have a great weekend. If everyone stayed, have a great weekend. And we'll see you Monday, same time.
Happy Friday. Thank you, guys.